Hi, this is Gary with MACMOST.com. Let me show you some uses for checkboxes in numbers. MACMOST is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 1,000 supporters. Go to MACMOST.com/Patreon. There you could read more about the Patreon campaign, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. So one way you can format a cell in numbers is as a checkbox. Functionally, this is the same as either typing the value true or false into the cell. Except instead of seeing those words there, you're going to see a box that either has a check mark in it or doesn't. So here's one way you could use those. You could use those to indicate whether something has been done. So I'm not going to perform any calculations in this first example, but here I've got some cells and it'll be nice to be able to indicate whether something's been done. Like for instance whether this order has been prepared, packaged, shipped, and then received. Now I could put a value like 1 or 0 in them, or I could type the value true or false, and that would work. But a better way to do it would be to select all of these cells and then go to Format, Cell, and then change the data format to Checkbox. And when I do that, a checkbox appears. And if the value is blank or false, it's empty. But if I click it, it changes so there's a check mark there. Notice the actual value here is now true, whereas say the actual value of this cell is false. So I can now go through and check each one of these off like that, and I can record in my spreadsheet very easily when things have been done. Now you can use checkboxes to organize your data. So for instance here you can see I've got some orders that have been completed. They've been received by the customer, and if I wanted to sort to put those orders at the top and the orders that have not yet been received at the bottom, I could do so. I could simply select the table here, click on the column, and then sort either ascending, so I put the completed orders at the bottom, or sort descending here to put them at the top. Now if I were to change something like to check these and then resort, I would then move this one up. But I could also add another column here and then in this one put a number that counts the check marks. So I can do count and then if. Count if will allow you to select a range, so these 4 cells here, and then the condition they must meet, so whether or not they're true. And now I can get 4 for that row, and then as I paste them here you can see I get 3, 4, and 1. So now I could sort by this row like this and put the ones that are more completed towards the top. And if I want I could hide this column here so it kind of works invisibly. So now if I were to change these like that and then go to Organize, Sort, I could choose this hidden column here and have it sort by the hidden column, and that way I can get my sorting order without having to see the number there. You can also filter based on similar things. So for instance if I just wanted to see all of the orders that had not yet been received, I could click here and I could do a quick filter, and doing a quick filter on this column only I could say show me only the ones with the false values so I can see the ones that are not received. The great thing about filters over sorting is it updates automatically. So as soon as I check Received here, the filter gets applied and that row disappears completely. Anytime I want I can go to Organize and then Filter here, turn filters off to see everything, or turn it back on again, filter to the ones that are not yet received. You can also count the number of check marks. So I'm going to add another row here, but I'm going to go to Format and Table and then change that to a footer row. So now I have something where I can easily go and do calculations on the entire table, but it won't be part of the table itself. So if I wanted to count the number of check marks here, I could use what I did before and say count if, and then look for the entire column, so just H in this case, and then see if it's true. And now I can count the number received. Now I can also get a percentage. So this gives me the number, but I can also count the total. So I can say count A. You can see the number that are not empty. So in this case it's just going to count the total number there. And I could do all of H, subdividing the number checked by the total number, and I get 0.75. If I change the formatting of that cell to percentage, I get an easy percentage there, and it will update depending upon how well I'm doing. You can also sum up numbers based on whether or not a checkmark is present. So for instance, I can get the sum of the prices here, but only for rows where there's a checkmark here in the last column. So to do that, you would do SUMIF. Then the first element would be H, whether or not it's checked. Then you would compare that to true. So only count rows where H is true. And then what do I add? Well, I'm going to do the amount in D. So now I get the total here, but it depends on whether things have been checked. If I uncheck things, you can see it changes the total. And if I check them, it adds them up. You could also control calculations based on a checkbox. So for instance here, if I wanted to get the total price but only add tax if this is checked, I could do that. I could create a formula here that takes the price, adds, and then uses an if to say if this is true, then add tax, which would be the price times some numbers. So 0.07, 7% here. Or 0 if not checked. So now you can see it's 300, but if I check this box, you can see it's 321 plus 7%. Then I can copy and paste this in all of the rows there, and then the formula works with the checkbox. You can also have it choose a different formula based on the checkbox. So in this case, I can have it do if, and then the condition is whether or not this is true, then do a formula like this plus itself times 0.07, and otherwise do a completely different calculation like this plus itself times 0.03. So now the total there depends on the checkbox. It's doing two different formulas based on whether or not this is true. Now taking that one step further, you can actually have data shown based on whether or not there's a checkbox. So here I can calculate the tax. I could say if this is true, then the tax would be the price times 0.07. Or 0 if otherwise. So I get $21 there, but if I copy and paste that 0, this one gives me $24.50 and this is 0. And then I can have a total that's basically this plus this. And I can copy and paste that throughout. Now what would be really cool is if you didn't even see the 0 here. And that could be done in formatting. So I can select all the cells here in column F, and I can go to Format and then Cell and then set it for a custom format. And then under custom format say, okay, the type's going to be number. Let's add currency before it. We get a decimal after it if we wanted to, but add a rule that if it is equal to 0, then simply show nothing. So now we get nothing here shown. It's just going to be blank. Every time there's a 0 value, it's going to show it as blank because of our custom formatting. So we check this box here, we get a tax there, but we uncheck it and it's just blank. And the total will always work out. So I hope this gives you some ideas of how to use checkboxes in numbers. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, click the thumbs up button below to let me know. I publish new tutorials each weekday. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out.